Okay, welcome to the 35th episode of my self-important Magic the Gathering show. I did say that I was going to stop saying the number soon, but I wanted the three Final Fantasy episodes to be back to back. So they're labeled. After that, I don't know. Uh, anyway, you might notice that I have a couple of things already open. I'm recording this on... Oh, heck, I can't count. July 25th. That's important because yesterday, July 24th, yesterday for me at any rate, I caught a VOD of Maldhound roasting a deck that gave me a deck idea. This is the second time I've gotten a deck idea. The first one was some number of streams ago, where someone had a gone fishing deck. I'll show my version on one of these videos at some point in the future. Excuse me. I think I just gave myself the hiccups. But their version of the deck, I wasn't paying attention to the screen. I just heard Sephiroth and Living Weapon, and that gave me an idea for the mono black Sephiroth that I said I wasn't going to make a deck because I just didn't want to just do aristocrats. But but it was a funny idea in my head that I'll get into in a second. They had Boros Sephiroth, and it made me reconsider the Sephiroth I made because I put in. Is it all the way down here? No, okay, I passed by it. This one, I put in all these token generators. And honestly, I think I can cut some of these for some more living weapons, because I have one living weapon right here, Cauldron Complete. I don't. We might be able to get rid of Aronis, God of Victory, as well, but he's going to stay for now. But let's see. Goro can stay because he can give things haste if I ever need mass haste, even though it costs one. And then making the dragons, since they have flying, making them into 7/5s if I put cell counters on them. Jacked Rabbit makes it equal to his power. We can dump Anim Pakal because it's tied to her +1/+1 counters and not her power. We can, let's see, Makari, the Lucky Grot, is equal to their power, so that can stay. I do like Fairchild still. And we make survivors based on power, so that's cool. The shield. Oh wait, the Hero of Light makes ones that attack, so we can get rid of that, even though it is a Final Fantasy character thing. And then this has this nice little protection thing, and that. Let's see, we removed 3 cards. Ancient Gold Dragon is still neat because it's flying at the upper end, but let's take that out. I do want to keep Knights of the Round just because it's a Final Fantasy set or deck mostly, so that gives us 3. During your turn, opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. That's probably still nice to have on top of the token generation, so we could have 3 of these things. The reason why these are all interesting is because they are modified creatures that come in with low base stats. The problem with the modular ones is that we're not sitting on a whole lot of artifact creatures. Oh, technically we can also get rid of Lightning Army of One, because she's neat and all. Actually, no, we'll hold on to that. We're not going to take out really good cards for bad cards just to go on theme. Yeah, so the problem with the Arcbound ones, I only put in the 3 lowest mana cost ones because that's where I was going to go. So 97. So, let's see. So that's Living Weapon for 6. Living Weapon, just in case I never explained it for Cauldra, you get a 0/0 black germ creature token, and then before state-based actions makes that thing go away, this attaches to it. And this one gives +3/+1 in haste with an equip cost of 2 and a base cost of 6. The Sandwalker costs 5, has an equip cost of 4, and gives +2/+4 reach. Scytheclaw, +1/+1, and causes the opponent to lose half their life, rounded up, and equips for 3, base cost of 5. I don't think we need that effect if we're just trying to mess people up. Batter Skull, +4/+4, Vigilance, Lifelink. And you can return it to your hand to cast again, rather than try to equip it on something else if you just want to get another germ token. That one might be good. And also you can return it to your hand if you're holding on to 3 mana to save it from being removed. Skin Wing, +2/+2 flying, but it has an equip cost of 6. +X/+X, where creature cards in all graveyards with equip cost of 2. +2/+2 straight up. 3 down, 4 to equip. Nettle Cyst is +1/+1 for each artifact and or enchantment. I don't think we need Bitter Thorn because we're not playing. We're only playing 20 basics. Mortar Pod has +0/+1, and then you can sacrifice the creature to deal 1 damage to a creature. Well, I think that's any target. Batterbone is +1/+1, Vigilance, Lifelink. +1/+1 flying. And just plain +1/+1. We get to have 3 of those. Haste is nice. Reach is nice since I don't think we're sitting on a whole lot of flying. We don't need to lose half the life. Vigilant, lifelink is cool, of course, but vigilance is way more important. So we are going to, I don't know where it thinks it goes. Oh, it's going to put itself in life gain. That's fine. We're going to do the other one because it also gives vigilance. Which one is that one? Is that Batterbone? Yes. It's kind of redundant with Envoy of the Ancestors, but that's like only 2 things that are redundified from it. Going in, I'm looking for my removal section really quick. There it is. Okay, I still have all those really cool things over here. I just kind of left my brain. And then one more. Probably this cheap one that gives flying. The equip is 3 and a white, so that's a big ask. What's the other one? It was the Skin Wing. That equips for 6. And then Reach isn't the same thing, but that also equips for 4, but it doesn't care what colors you have. Although this is it's 5 to put down. So I think we're just going to do the Mandible Kite. And evasion, fair enough. And that's how we changed this deck that we put together last week. Yeah. Oh, what's funny is that all of the living weapons are searchable if they are somehow the thing that we really need to grab with Cloud or Stoneforge Mystic. So that was that. We can close it because it's already been linked. That was just an update. So now we have another deck I fully built. It's Sephiroth, the Fabled Soldier, a guy I wasn't going to build for until I was like, oh, that would be funny, and we'll get to it when we get to it. Whenever Sephiroth enters or attacks, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, draw a card. Sweet. Whenever another creature dies, target opponent loses a life and you gain a life. If this is the 4th time this ability is resolved this turn, transform Sephiroth. Okay, let's transform Sephiroth. Oh, the front side is a 3/3 for 3. This is also a $100 version of the card. On the back end, we have Sephiroth, the One-Winged Angel. That's why I named the deck One-Winged Angel. And then he's a 5/5 flying. Front side he's a human avatar soldier. Back side he's an angel nightmare avatar. With Supernova, as this creature transforms into Sephiroth, One-Winged Angel, you get an emblem with whenever a creature dies, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. See, that's that aristocrat stuff that I didn't want to build around. And then whenever Sephiroth attacks, you may sacrifice any number of other creatures if you do draw that many cards. Neato Skeeto. And then we have the Masamune. As long as equipped creature is attacking, it has first strike and must be blocked. That's hilarious. Equipped creature has, if a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a creature or emblem you control to trigger, it triggers an additional time. So yeah, that doubles our the emblem. I didn't really need to put this card in this deck, but I thought it was funny. Going back to Sephiroth, whenever another creature dies, whenever it enters or attacks, whenever it enters or attacks, whenever dies. Yep, okay. Then Panharmonicon. If an artifact or creature entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So that means we can sacrifice 2 creatures. Of the information you have of the deck so far, that means whenever Sephiroth enters, we can sacrifice 2 things and draw 2 cards. And then Roaming Throne doubles all of Sephiroth's triggers so far. Ayara is an elf noble, so it doesn't share any creature types with Sephiroth, but it does have a triggered ability when creatures enter. So whenever Ayara or another black creature enters, an opponent loses life and you gain a life. So that's an enter, not a leaves, and I just consider that slightly different from aristocrats. And then you can also tap to sacrifice another black creature to draw a card. So, you know, more card draw. Braid's Origin Nightmare is a nightmare. So if we choose Nightmare instead of like Avatar, we can get... I don't know if this is a trigger. Or if it's just... I don't know how that works with this. So I don't know if you get to do this twice. But at the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice an artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker. If you do, each opponent may sacrifice a permanent that shares a card type with it. For each opponent who doesn't, they lose 2 life and you draw a card. Buster Sword to draw a card and cast spells for free. Morbid Opportunist to draw 1 card a turn when stuff dies. Shadowheart to sacrifice stuff and draw a lot of cards, potentially, because it's equal to power. Brotherhood Regalia to give Sephiroth unblockable. Unblockable except by walls. Unblockable. And then, when this enters or attacks, you may attach any number of target equipment to it. That might be important at some point. And then quickly going through our lands. Barad-dûr. It comes into play tapped unless we have a legendary creature. Taps for black. And then we can amass orcs if a creature died. Removes a graveyard. Potential ramp based on basic swamps. Draws cards in emergencies. LOL. Also, switch to that printing. Cavil Coffers, ramp based on swamps. Sacrifice creature to add double black. Swamp, different swamp, third swamp. Everything is a swamp. The Shadow Spear, so trample, lifelink, and can remove hexproof and indestructible. Flare's Husk. Oh, did I put in the wrong one? Oh no, that... Oh, duh, this is a different deck. All 15 living weapons are in this deck. That's just all I'm going to say about that. And they have their own section, and that's what confused me. The only thing that is important is that the base creature is a 0/0. So when you sacrifice them to Shadowheart, it matters. The equipment matters. But if you de-equip them, they're 0/0s that die to state-based Estins. So that's why the Armory Automaton is in here. So if I have Sephiroth, 4 living weapons, and then I cast the Armory Automaton, that flips Sephiroth. Otherwise, we'd have to get like 4 of these out and re-equip them, which is another reason why we want all of the ramp. So then we go into Cauldron Complete, so we can go to the next section. Lightning Greaves, Mirror Shield, Swiftfoot Boots, Champion's Helm, Darksteel Plate, Mithril Coat, Whispersteel Cloak, Hammer of Nizan. That's, you know, Hexproof, Shroud. Some of it also has Unblockable. But you know, now we have our ramp: Soul Ring, Arc Sig, Charcoal Diamond, Cold Steel Heart, Felbar Stone, Mind Stone, Iron Crag, Thought Vessel, Brass Squire for free equips. You know, it basically, I mean, some things equip expensive no matter what, but this thing also allows us to de-equip a germ so they just go away. Then we have the Soul Trader, which is pay a life, sacrifice another creature, create a treasure token. Cryptghast, Swamp Doubler. If it is Plunder, we get a treasure when something dies. Something of ours dies. Solemn, the Revenant, that allows us to double tap swamps, but also is a pump. So Mana Sink. Then we have our removal: Cast Down, non-legendary, non-artifact, no counters, any creature lose 2 life, exile, or exile for cheaper, but they get to draw a card. Deadly Rollick, exile for free if we have our commander in play. Drag to the Underworld, destroy, but destroy cheaper for our devotion. Destroys a thing when it attacks, destroys a thing when you attack, destroys a thing when it comes in and when it attacks. Can destroy 2 things and then probably end the game. So yeah, that was the reason why I built this. Why I was finally inspired to build Mono Black Sephiroth, not to do like super aristocrats ping damage to everything, but because I thought it was funny that de-equipping the germs was a good way to trigger Sephiroth. And that's why I like it. So we are going to remove this now. And there's only 2 cards in this deck, but we're not going to him yet. That did not even take 20 minutes, which is good. So now we are going to just, we're going to go that, we're going to do that, we're going to do that. We're just going to open all of these in advance. we're even going to move that one ahead of time. There we go. So we're going to go, it's called Secret Sid, yet its commander is the Azorius Tidus. So we're going to read Tidus here, and you can already see what's funny. So Tidus, Blitzball star, is 1 white blue for a 2/1 human warrior. Whenever an artifact you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on Tidus. Sorry. Whenever Tidus attacks, tap target creature an opponent controls. Neat, not great. But the reason it is called Secret Sid is because I wasn't going to do this, but here. Sid, Timeless Artificer. 2, a white and a blue for a 4/4 human artificer. Artifact, creatures, and heroes you control get +1/+1 for each artificer you control and each artificer card in your graveyard. A deck can have any number of cards named Sid, Timeless Artificer. And then you can also pay a white and a blue to discard this card and draw a card. But the thing is that there are 15 different arts of Sid, Timeless Artificer. Because he's in every mainline game starting with 2. They retroactively put him in 1, I think, with some remakes, but that didn't make it into Magic the Gathering. So these are basically cantrips that don't do anything if you don't have one in play. Then of course we have the Buster Sword because it's good, draws a card, and cast a spell for free. Fairy Mechanist. It's an artifact creature and an artificer. That's double the Sidness. 3 and a blue for a 2/2, which is horrible, but it has flying. And whenever it comes into play, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You reveal an artifact card from among them and put it into your hand. The rest go into the bottom of your library in any order. Transplant Theorist. I think is this whole section called Artificers? No, it's a draw section. It's just a coincidence. Anyway, Transplant Theorist. It is also 3 and a blue, but now it's a 2/4 without flying. Whenever Transplant Theorist or another artifact, so it's also an artifact creature artificer, so again, really great for Sid if we ever stick one. Enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So that way we can discard extra Sids. Because you know I'm not great about that, but hey. And then you put target card from your graveyard to the bottom of your library if you ever need to. So, not an artifact, not an artificer, but whenever you cast an artifact spell, you draw a card. Guidelight Synergist. It's flying and gets... That is an artifact artificer that gets +1 also for each artifact you control. Memory Guardian. Artifact artificer that has affinity for artifacts and with flying. So it can be as cheap as a single blue. And then our usual suspects for our white-blue decks. I don't think we're going to find anything interesting. Oh, now we have Shadow Spear. That I did this one instead of the Lara Croft one. Lightning Greaves. Metallurgian. It is an artifact artificer again that can regenerate artifacts. That part isn't particularly important, but it can be. It's just another artifact artificer. Mirror Shield, Swiftfoot Boots, Lita, Mechanical Engineer, Artifact Creature Artificer again, Vigilance, 3/3 for 3. At the beginning of your end step, on top of each other artifact creature you control. That's just your end step, but still. And then you can create Zeppelins that are artifact vehicles with crew 3, so that's neat. Mithril Coat, Soul Ring, Arcane Signet. Is that the correct one? Yep. Final Fantasy X. Automated Artificer, so it's another artifact creature artificer that can tap for colorless to spend only on artifact spells or artifact abilities. Oh no, any kind of ability and artifact spells. Okay. Zoria's Signet, Cold Steel Heart, Ethereum Sculptor, artifact creature artificer again. Artifact spells cost 1 less to cast. Marble Diamond, Mind Stone, Sky Diamond, Talisman of Progress, Thought Vessel, Foundry Inspector, artifact creatures cost 1 less to cast. Artifact creature, but not an artificer. Voyager Quick Wielder, artifact creature that is also an artifact. Artifact that is also an artificer. That says artifact spells you cost 1 less to cast. Master Transmuter, return an artifact you control to its owner's hand. You may put an artifact card from your hand onto the battlefield. Neat. So it allows you to cheap out big artifacts and put something like, hey, Solemn into your hand to cast again. Bluster Squall, a blue tap down effect that I don't always have room for in a deck, but I put in this one. Path to Exile, Pongify, Rapid Aphrodization, Sword to Plowshares, Unwanted Remake, destroy creature, its controller manifests dread, which means you look at the top 2 cards of your library and you put one of them face down, and I forget where the other one goes, and it doesn't really matter. Bovine Intervention, Curse of Swine, or Curse of the Swine. Exile X creatures. All of those creatures are replaced by 2/2 green boars. Disenchant, Fateful Absence, Heliod's Intervention, Parting Gust, Reality Shift, Generous Gift, Memories of Nibelheim, Aetherize, Settle the Wreckage, Aether Spouts, Psy Master Thopterist. It is a human artificer, and that when you cast an artifact spell, you get a 1/1 Thopter. And then you can also sacrifice 2 artifacts to draw a card. Whew. It is funny how much redundancy we have for make artifacts cheaper to cast. We don't have a whole lot of like recursion for artifacts. And I don't even know how many artifacts we actually bring into play. Let's go to type. Like, we only have 15 regular artifacts. 15 of these 29 creatures we know are not artifacts. And at least 2 of them off the top of my head on top of that, so 17 weren't artifacts. Because Psy and this guy were not artifacts, but I think everyone else was. Yeah. Okay, so we actually do have, so 29 minus 17 is 12. So we have 27 artifacts in the deck, for what it's worth. Though honestly, really, Tidus Blitzball Star, unnecessary to cast, if we're being perfectly honest. I mean, he's cool to get out, but like, the silly thing is, we really want to get Psy Master Thopterus out, I guess, early, and then 1 Sid. Stick 1 Sid and make him indestructible and untargetable. Not that we have a whole lot of that, nor do we have a whole, we don't have any tutors for that, but that's the whole goal of that. So Secret Sid can go down here. I'm a fan of that deck. Next is Golbez. Whoops. So Golbez says, whenever an artifact you control enters, surveil 1. Let's look at the top, and you may put it back or into the graveyard. Which we all know I normally don't like putting stuff in my graveyard, but at the beginning of your end step, if you control 4 or more artifacts, you can return a creature from your graveyard to your hand. Then if you control 8 or more artifacts, each opponent loses life equal to that card's power. That's neat, and you're probably not going to see anything out of me that you didn't see out of someone else. We have Panharmonicon. That doubles the Surveil trigger. Then we have Roaming Throne that doubles both of his triggers, and he is a human wizard, a 1/4 for 2. That's pretty cool. He's a good blocker that can come out early. So you can get 2 artifacts back from your discard pile. And then you surveil twice. You can surveil up to 3 times, I guess. Then we have Virtue of Knowledge. Oh, which, hey, look, if a permanent entering causes a triggered ability. So that gives us another one. And then we have this instant effect if we ever wanted to copy it again. The 6-mana Y'shtola rule that gives us an extra end step so we can return even more stuff. It also blinks a thing. Which may or may not matter. Sir Conrad the Grim, which is a Golbez. Conrad normally gets you super targeted because it's good. It also has that mill that we're not going to use because we don't like milling people. If it only milled us, we'd be cool with it. But whenever another creature dies, or a creature card is put into the graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or if a creature card leaves your graveyard, it does 1 damage to each opponent, which if our commander pulls stuff out of the graveyard, then we have our draw section with Black Market, the Buster Sword, of course, Forensic Gadgeteer. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, Investigate. That's neat because we want to cast a lot of artifact spells. But also, what's funny is this Forensic Gadgeteer probably could have made it into our other deck, but didn't because it wasn't an artifact creature, and we put in stuff that was the 2 things that made it that made this thing not make it were better, and that's the Psymaster Thopters that gives us more Thopters, and the Vitalican Archmage, which just straight up draws us a card. But activated abilities of artifacts you control cost 1 less to activate, but it can't reduce as less to 1, so it means our clue tokens only need 1. And then, of course, Maytelia, Archon Elder, she got her own deck, but whenever you Scry or Surveil, draw a card, so that's neat. Phyrexian Arena, Underworld Connections, Vidalcan Archmage, of course. Thought Monitor, Affinity for Artifacts, that draws 2 cards when it enters. It is a 2/2 for 7, but your hope is that it don't cost you 7 mana. Wrecking Ball Arm, because it's funny. Just to make our commander a 7/7 that can't be blocked by super chumps. Kappa Cannoneer, the best artifact related card printed ever, I guess, apparently, according to other people. It has Improvise, which means you can tap artifacts that aren't mana rocks to pay for it. It has Ward 4, so it's hard to get rid of. Whenever Kappa Cannoneer or another artifact enters the battlefield under your control, it gets a +1/+1 counter and can't be blocked this turn. It don't have haste, but, it's probably going to stick around, and it's probably going to be very big. Darksteel Colossus, Optimus Prime variant, because it's funny. This is a great thing to dump into your graveyard and then pull back out if you have 8 artifacts. Blightsteel Colossus, same deal. This time it's Megatron. The disparity in these 2 cards is funny, but it's mostly because one of these is Blightsteel Colossus and one of these is merely Darksteel. Then we got our lands, and I don't think I'm going to see anything. Oh, we're going to see artifact lands because they also trigger, since they are artifacts, they also trigger Golbez, so you get So you get a land and you get a scry. Excuse me. Oh, Power Depot. That it's an artifact land that enters tap, but you can tap to add 1 mana of any color, but only for artifact spells or abilities of artifacts, and it also has modular 1. So it has a +1/+1 counter that it doesn't need, but if it ever gets destroyed, I guess, although I don't know if it has to be a creature, but it can put its thing on another thing. Scene of the crime. Oh, it's an artifact land clue. Like none of its abilities really matter, but you can tap it and a creature for 1 mana of any color. Artifact land. Treasure Vault. You can make treasures with it by sacrificing it and paying a bunch of mana. And then I think we've Watery Grave. Okay, so Lightning Greaves, Mirror Shield, Swiftfoot Boots, Champion's Helm, Darksteel Plate, Mithril Coat, Propaganda. People can't attack us unless they pay 2 for each creature. Soul Ring, Arc Sig, Charcoal Diamond, Cold Steel Heart, Emir Signet, Ethereum Sculptor again, Mind Stone, Sky Diamond, Talisman of Dominance, Iron Crag, Thought Vessel, Treasure Map. On the back, we can sacrifice treasures to draw a card. And I assume we have more ways to make treasures besides this. We probably passed by one. Artifacts cost 1 less again. We're just going to change this printing really quick to... We use this one in another deck. We'll use this one here. The Solemn again. Enhanced Surveillance. You may look at additional 2 cards each time you surveil. So all of our Surveil 1 becomes Surveil 3, I guess. I think that's how that works. Miroko, whenever you surveil, she gets a +1/+1 counter. She has Flying and Vigilance. In the beginning of your end step, you may return target creature card with power less than Makero's power from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. I don't like finality counters, but hey. If it's something that you can protect... Hold on, just changing how I'm sitting for a bit. Then it's fine. Or if it's something that you don't care if it goes away forever. Metalwork Colossus costs X less to cast, where X is the total mana value of non-creature artifacts you control. And then you can sack 2 artifacts to return it from your graveyard to your hand. But it's also a 10/10 that you can just smack people with by getting it into your graveyard. Pongify, Rep Hybrid, Cast Down, Go for the Throat, Heartless Act, Infernal Grasp. Primogenesis. Oh, that's Feed the Swarm. It destroys enchantments at sorcery speed. Breathe Your Last. And Hero's Downfall. They both destroy creatures or planeswalkers, but the previous one gives you life equal to its colors. Withering Torment is instant speed version of Feed the Swarm, so it costs 1 more. Aetherize. Assassin's Ink, it's cheaper for artifacts and enchantments. Deadly Rollick, we remember them. Drag to the Underworld, still good in 2 colors. Aether Spouts. Xenocia Galvis, we gave him his own deck. He can cause people to lose the game. And also gives a whole bunch of stuff, -2/-2 forever. Meteor Golem, Ultima Weapon, Cityscape Leveler, Bahamut. Ancient Stone Idol, again it's a creature. It costs less for each attacking creature, and it's a 12/12. It's a thing that we could discard, or I don't think we have a whole lot. We don't have any discard outlets, but like it's a thing we can surveil away. And that's the deck. Could I make it better? Probably. Honestly, I'd probably. Funny that you're down in tokens. Is that I'd probably take out some of the. Let's see. We could take out Xenos, because he's not an artifact or artifact creature. Yeah, let's take out Xenos. Ding. Let's take out Assassin's Ink, Hero's Downfall, Breathe Your Last. Let's make enchantments somebody else's problem. Oh, it's Primogenesis. Ding. So that gives us 6 spots. What are our categories? Or what are our types? We have 21 artifacts. I would like some more creatures. Mostly because we get them back, but we also maybe want some discard outlets for those 6 things. So yeah, just in case things that we want to surveil away end up in our hand. So let's go T, creature, O, discard. Discarding cards is another thing I don't like to do, but it's kind of this deck's thing. So we're just going to look through cards. But we're also going to look for repeatable and inexpensive. So I'm not even going to like read these unless I see something interesting. The problem is, of course, that these things don't care if I'm discarding the card or if an opponent discards a card. Like, we're not a self-discard deck, so Bone Miser or Waste Not don't really do anything for us. Order, CMC. We want cheap effects. Nope. We want things that are cheap to bring into play and cheap to activate. Like the Aquamoeba is kind of funny because it's just discard a card to make it a 3/1 or back to a 1/3, but there's no real other benefit. Like, we can dump cards the Cabal Initiate, but it only just gets lifelink the one time because that is not an effect that stacks. I might, if I don't see it, I'll look for the. Oh, there it is. That can't be the only other Spell Shaper. Spell Shapers are things that tap, discard a card, get an effect, and that's Howl from Beyond, and that's... It basically turns any card into whatever card that they're representing on their card. Whenever... No, we're not discarding enough. Discard your hand? No. Not the whole hand, just one card at a time. Like, I know we can get this effect for free, that's why I'm ignoring these ones. Like draw and discard, we can just, there's ones here that exist that'll just do it if you tap and you don't have to pay 1 for it. We don't want our, okay, oh, well that's a Jace, so we're not messing with that. See, but look, Otterball Elite has prowess, which doesn't really matter. like this ability. Copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Activate only if her powers... Well, there. I don't know what kind of name kits it is, and I don't want to assume with an otter. It's power 3 or greater, which means with the prowess, you would had to have... it would be your second non-creature spell that turn. But which our non-creature spells are... that we have are fairly cheap. Not Panharmonicon. But, that's not one of the ones that we can copy anyway. But I mean, we only have 14 pieces of removal. But, like, we could double up on one of these. Although I don't think we're going to put her in. But we can come back for her. I keep saying a her. Hitza. I don't know what kind of name that is. Then we have the Likeness and Looter. Oh, this one's better because it can copy stuff that we've discarded as long as we have the mana for it. And it has flying, so we're going to put that so we have 5 more. Magus of the Bazaar. I don't like draw 2, discard 3. We're not that into discarding. Merfolk Looter, the classic. Draw a card, discard a card. That's fine. So that's 4 more. We have the Riddle Smith, but I don't like having it tied to Rona. Whenever you cast a legendary spell, you can untap her, but that part doesn't matter. What are those back do? Whenever a source deals combat damage to a Rona, that source's control exiles a card from their hand at random. If it's a land card, you may put it into the battlefield under your control. Otherwise, you may... Well, you know, it's stealing, which I don't like, but your opponent has to trigger it, so that's really on them. So that's 3. We have 3 left. Seeker of Insight does it, but we had to have cast non-creature spell. Shell-Off Entomber just does it, so that's we have 2 left. If we can finish it off, without getting into 3 mana, that'd be great. There we go, Thought Courier. Draw a card, discard a card. And then if we don't find it, we're just going to go back up to that one creature that had the ability that we weren't really... Okay, I don't like the part where discarding instant or sorcery, because that's not what we're going to discard anyway. We plan on discarding creatures, so having a piece of text. So we're going to go back up. We're going to grab the Otterball player. And then maybe someday, oh, it also has Vigilance, so that's neat. So maybe someday we'll be able to copy an instant or sorcery spell. There we go. And that puts us back at 100. And yeah, neat. I'm glad I went back and grabbed some discard stuff that also boosted my draw section, I guess. I like how this thing is put into recursion, but whatever. You can go away now. Now we're on Vivi, someone who I think makes it into CEDH, but if you know me, you know mine ain't. So let's get this over with. 1 blue red for a 0/3 that has 0. Add X mana of any combinations of red and or blue, where X is Vivi's power. Activate only during your turn and only once each turn. So it's a mana ability that you don't have to tap for. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Vivi, and it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Okay. And because this is a powered down deck, we do not have Curiosity, which is an enchantment, or which is an aura style enchantment that says whenever a creature deals damage to an opponent, you draw a card. Yeah. But we do have Harmonic Prodigy to double Vivi's triggers so it can grow faster. We have Roaming Throne to double, well, no, it's additional time. +1 trigger, +1 trigger. Sakashima to copy Vivi directly without, so we have a second Vivi. Spark Double to have another Vivi. The Ozolith to store Vivi +1/+1 counters in case Vivi goes away, because you know anyone who's intelligent will get rid of Vivi. It's also a non-creature spell. So that triggers Vivi. Astral Legends Planisphere. Equip creature as a wizard and into its other types, and whenever you cast non-creature spell, and whenever you draw your third card a turn, you put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. This gives half of an additional trigger to Vivi, and it also is a non-creature spell that makes a 1/1 creature. That's a 2/2 creature as long as this is attached to it. Flux Channeler, whenever you cast non-creature spell, proliferate. Hey, Vivi is a thing you can proliferate. Burning Prophet. This thing gets slightly, with non-creature spells, this gets slightly bigger, and then you scry. Jorian Ruin Diver. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, you draw a card. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, this thing gets a +1/+1 counter, and you draw a card. This thing draws you cards and gives you no maximum hand size. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this thing gets slightly bigger and can't be blocked. Even more slightly bigger, can't be blocked. Permanently slightly bigger and can't be blocked. Those are all okay. Second spell. Those. Okay, this is non-creature spell. This is second spell. This is second spell. And then, oh, anyone who's been watching my Shin Megami Tensei stuff will recognize this name that I can't say out loud. It has Flying, Vigilance, and Ward 2, and when it enters and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this thing gets slightly bigger and can't be blocked. Then we have Super State to make Vivi bigger, because his ability is based on his power, not the number of +1/+1 counters on him. Which normally those two things are the same. Sword Coast Serpent can't be blocked as long as you cast a non-creature spell this turn. Which you notice we haven't really gotten to a whole lot of non-creature spells. Darksteel Colossus because it's big and brutal. Blightsteel Colossus because it's big and brutal. Now we're on our lands that I didn't do a whole lot to. Myriad Landscape. Odd choice, but I'm not really going to do anything about it now. Nothing. Oh, Living Weapon. Living Weapons again because they're non-creature spells that have creatures attached to them. And Batterbone and Batterskull are the Vigilance Lifelink ones. Finally into our non-creature spells, by the way. Lightning Greaves, Mirror Shield, Swiftfoot Boots, Champion Helm, Darksteel Plate, Mithril Coat, Propaganda because we just want to protect Vivi and then ourselves. Hammer of Nazahan. Achroma's Memorial will super protect all of our stuff. And also give them First Strike, Vigilance, Trample, Haste, and Flying with protection from black and red. Oh yeah, this isn't the one that makes them indestructible. That's mono white. Cauldron Complete because it's Living Weapon, so it's not a creature spell. Red Mage's Rapier, not a creature spell. Whenever you cast non-creature spell, this creature gets slightly bigger until end of turn and is a wizard. Nettlesis, Living Weapon, +1/+1 for each artifact and or enchantment. Excalibur, because it's funny. Because it makes Vivi 10 power bigger for stuff. We don't even have that much, like, big stuff to cast. Soul Ring, Arc Sig, Cold Steel Heart, Fire Diamond, Izzet Signet, Mind Stone, Sky Diamond, Talisman of Creativity, Iron Crag, Thought Vessel, Solemn Simulacrum, Ancient Copper Dragon, which is the dragon that makes treasures. For no reason in this deck, honestly. Pongify, Rapid Hybridization, Shattering Spree, Vandal Blast, Vivi's Thunder Magic, which is really Lightning Bolt. Normally I don't put it in the deck, but it has Vivi's face on it. Mizium Mortars, Reality Shift, Delayed Blast Fireball, Aether Eyes, Aether Spouts, Meteor Golem, Scour from Existence. It's a non-creature spell, so definitely good for this deck. Cityscape Leveilleur, Portal to Phyrexia, because, you know, you and the horse you rode in on. Summon Bahamut. It's a creature spell, but it's super. We're getting into the stuff that we want VV big for. Ovika, Enigma Goliath, War 3, pay 3 life, and with flying. And then when you cast a non-creature spell, you get X goblin, Phyrexian goblins equal to its mana value, and they have haste, so they can attack right away. So that's my version of this deck. I don't think my version is the best version. Let's do this. Let's go by type. So we have 27 artifacts that are not creatures. 2 enchantments that are not creatures. So that goes up to 29. 8 instants that are not creatures. That's 37. And then 3 sorceries. So that's 40, right? 27... 37, yeah. We have 40. Yeah, we have 40 non-creature spells in the deck, so I'm happy with the number of non-creatures. Categories. So there we go with that. When going through it, it didn't look like I had that many non-creatures, but it turns out I had a lot of non-creatures. Because there's only 23 total creatures in the deck, including our commander. So we get rid of you. You can go right there. Now we have new mutants, nothing to do with Marvel. Oh, but I do have the opportunity to do something funny when I go to the next card. We have Jenova, Ancient Calamity, 2 black-green for a 1/5 alien. Sephiroth's mom is caked up, I guess that's how you would say it. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a number of +1/+1 counters equal to Jehovah's power onto up to 1 other target creature. That creature becomes a mutant in addition to its other types. Whenever a mutant you control dies during your turn, you draw cards equal to its power. Neat. Then we have the Ozlith, our +1/+1 counter retention item that we're going to use the Wolverine Secret Lair version because that's the funny joke. Aquastrand Spider that has Graft 2. When it comes into play with 2 +1/+1 counters, and then when another creature comes into play, you may move a +1/+1 counter onto it. But you can also pay a green to give a creature with a +1/+1 counter reach until end of turn. We're not playing a whole lot of creatures that fly, so that's mildly important as long as we hold up at least 1 green. Then we have Hancock, Ghoulish Mare. Each other creature you control that's a zombie or mutant. Oh, by the way, Jenova was an alien, not even a mutant, so that's funny. Gets plus flex plus X, whereas the number of counters on Hancock, who he himself is a zombie mutant. So if it dies on our turn, we draw 2 cards base. Also has Undying, which means if it goes away once, it comes back with a +1/+1 counter on it. But we can stack more on it with Jenova. Rayhan, you remember this from the Abzan? No, this was in the... Yeah, no, this was in the minus red week. It enters with 3 +1/+1 counters, and then whenever a creature you control dies or is put into the command zone, if it had 1 or more +1/+1 counters on it, you may put that many +1/+1 counters on target creature. So another way to hold on to counters. When this... Okay, so it has Evolve. So if something with greater power enters the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. And then, whenever you evolve, you put a +1/+1 counter on it because something else with higher power entered. You create a token that's copy. That's just a thing to get more. And it's a mutant. That's the important part. Host of the Hereafter enters with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. It is another counter preserver. Lily Bowen causes you to gain life if you stack counters on her, and she is also a mutant. Simic Basilisk has that graft ability. And then you can pay 1 and a red to give something with +1/+1 counters a delayed version of Death Touch. This gives Trample. This thing enters the battlefield tapped, but it costs less for each counter among players and permanents, so it can at least it could be an 8/8 for 2. Skull Clamp to draw extra cards off of stuff dying. Even though we're not creating any 1/1 tokens that I know of. Oh no, I'm willing to bet that we have black market connections in here somewhere. That can at least create 2/1 changelings. That mutant is one of the types. This is just a cheap changeling, so it's a mutant. There's black market connections. There's braids, so we can sacrifice stuff during our turn. Shadow, sacrifice stuff during our turn. Also draws cards, and they lose life equal to the mana value of the sacrifice permanent. Get Rug, the Thunder Junction one. So we can saddle it, and then sacrifice the thing that saddled it, and then we draw cards and get to play extra lands. Changeling Outcast is another cheap changeling, but also can't block or be blocked, so it can also just sneak in for lots of damage. Then we have our lands, and I don't think... Oh. We can reveal an elf card. We have a couple of changelings, so it's possible this comes into play untapped. But I don't... Oh, the Reliquary Tower, that's just the land that gives us no maximum hand size. That's always helpful. If you ever think... 3-tree city ramps you based on creature types. And for us, that's mutant. Other than that, I didn't see much. So Agent Frank Horrigan from Fallout as well. 5 black-green for an 8/6 with Trample. He is a mutant. He is indestructible as long as he's attacked. And he also proliferates on enter and attack, so that's nice. Then we have our Lightning Greaves, Swiftfoot Boots, Mithril Coat. This big Dorcas, the Ancient Adamantoise. You know, that has that 20 defense sitting out to soak up damage and also gives us a bunch of treasures. Yeah. Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Golgari Signet, Mind Stone, Nature's Lore, because we're in a green deck again. This is Farseek, you can't really tell. Rampant Growth, Sakura Tribeller, Talisman of Resilience, sorry. Thought Vessel, 3 visits. Pitiless Plunderer to get treasures when stuff dies. Solemn. Barkform Harvester, because it's a changeling that can also put stuff from our graveyard back into our library. Evolution Witness, it has Adapt, which means you can pay 2 to put 2+1/+1 counters on it once. Well, it's not technically once, it's as long as it has no counters on it. Whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put onto the Witness, you can put a permanent card from your graveyard to your hand, so that's a good way to recur stuff. The Falcon can sacrifice itself to return creatures from your graveyard to the battlefield. And then you can also cast it from the battlefield, so that's neat. Grave Shifter is a changeling that can put a creature card from our graveyard to our hand. So basically, all this stuff is stuff to recur our creatures so we can sacrifice them again or throw them in front of other creatures to block. Whenever another creature you control dies, you get an experience counter. At the beginning of your end step, choose target creature in your graveyard. If the card's mana value is less than or equal to the number of experience counters, you put it in the battlefield. Otherwise, it goes to your hand. So we can get our cheap creatures back at the end of our turns. The Soul Tiller says when it is put into a graveyard from play, so when it dies, choose a creature type and then stuff all creatures cards of that type from your graveyard into your library. And it's an elf mutant. Oh, hey, look. It can get that one thing into play. I was just seeing what her creature type was. Then we have good old Pest Infestation, Assassin's Trophy, which gets any permanent, but they get a basic land in return. Heartless Act, Fertile Grasp, Tear Asunder, Beast Within. Merciless Poisoning. It's Toxic Deluge. A card I don't normally use because you have to pay life. But since it's a sorcery, it means if we put enough into it till our stuff dies, we get to draw cards. So that's a fair trade. Atomize, Baleful Mastery, Crippling Fear because we have a lot of mutants. And Jenova has a big enough butt that this -3/-3 ain't going to affect it. Deadly Rollick, Drag to the Roots, Drag to the Underworld, Mortality Spear. Alpha Deathclaw, which says when it enters the battlefield or becomes monstrous, which means as long as it's not monstrous, you can pay the monstrosity cost to make it monstrous. And then it destroys a permanent. So it can destroy up to 2 permanents. First for 6, and then for 7. And it's also a mutant. Kindred Dominance, destroy all creatures that aren't of a specific creature type. We'd choose mutant. Maybe alien. Carrion Feeder allows us to sacrifice creatures. Viscera Seer allows us to sacrifice creatures. This also allows us to sacrifice creatures, all without having to tap, so we can do it multiple times as long as we have the life for this one. Maxwood Nexus allows us to make shapeshifters, but it also makes sure everything that we have on our board and in our deck are all mutants. So that was that deck. I like this one as well. Like, I didn't need to put any mutants in this deck, but I liked having things that I didn't have to use Jenova's once per turn ability on. And notice I didn't put the chair in this deck because I'm like, oh no, I have all of these mutants, so I don't need the chair. So we are done with that one. So we can just open the rest of these. I don't know, that didn't have the visual effect I was hoping for. And then we can move all of these up there. So now we can go through these. The two cloud ones are simple because these are both using this, or at least one of these is using this. This one is definitely using the same rules as the limit break from 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago your time, not 2 weeks ago my time. It's only cards from Final Fantasy VII. I could grab up the other limit break, but I don't think it's still up here. Oh, it is. So we can see how it's different. We go by type. We'll go by type because that'll be the easiest way. So this one has 20 artifacts. This one only has 18. What is different? The Behemoth Sledge is in here. And the Gilded Lotus is in here, because I did not see that over here. So we have the Gilded Lotus, because that's Aerith's flower. It costs 5 generic, but it taps 3 for any one color. And then the Behemoth Sledge has +2/+2 trample and lifelink, because it's another one of Cloud's silly weapons. And then over here we have 22 creatures. And over here we have 26 creatures. So I took some creatures out for this one. Zack, Bugenhagen, Sid, Cloud, Tifa. Oh, that's funny. So I have this Tifa. I think the main difference is that this one has like antagonists like Elena over there and Heidegger and this Sephiroth and the diamond weapon, and this one only has protagonists and the weapons vendor because he's not an antagonist, he's helpful. There's probably other stuff I took out from here as well. Anyway, so the only enchantment over here is Soldier Military Program, but because I decided that that was an antagonist, it got replaced by Side Quest Raise a Jacobo. Just checking the number of cards in deck. They both... I think this has the full maybe board. And this doesn't have a maybe board at all. So now we got to go to instance. This one has Dispatch, Tifa's Limit Break, Cloud's Limit Break, Haste Magic, Ultimate Magic Holy, Clever Concealment, and Lifestream's Blessing. This one has Dispatch, Tifa's Limits Break, Aerith's Curaga Magic, which I believe is Heroic Intervention, so it gives all your stuff indestructible and hexproof until end of turn. Cloud's Limit Break, Haste Magic, Chaos Warp, because that's identified as something Vincent does. Memories of Nibelheim, which did not make it into this one, oddly enough. Oh, because it wasn't... actually, I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe because it was a bonus sheet card. I don't know. But that's on me. Ultimate Magic Holy, Clever Concealment, and Lifestream Blessing. And then I believe they have the exact same lands. That's not something we need to go over. And then sorceries. The only thing that's left. 9 sorceries to 10 sorceries. This has Meteor. This one does not, because Meteor is Sephiroth Steel. Unfinished Business also. So yeah, but this has Eris Retinue missions, Secret Rendezvous. We still use Barret. The Cultivate that isn't in the other one. Yeah. So Limit Break version 2 is just all of the is all hero and hero allied cards. Those are the difference. So we can close you. We can pull you down. And then on Arena, I have a deck called Yelling at Cloud, but it's the mono white Cloud. For this Yelling at Cloud, we have Cloud, Barret, Firion. The gimmick here is that it is still just Final Fantasy cards, not cards outside of the Final Fantasy set. So we have Bonus Sheet Firion, which is SRAM, Senior Edificer. That draws a card when you cast an aura, equipment, or vehicle. Gyat, where you can discard then draw when you cast a dwarf or equipment enters. When we start doing typo stuff, he does have his own deck. Pure Steel Paladin, which is SRAM, but not a legend, and then only equipments, and also has this upside as long as you control 3 or more artifacts. I think I've said what these things do when I did that mono red equipment deck last week. Tome of Legends, draw cards when your commander attacks. Ashe, I don't think she's appeared yet, so when she attacks, you look at the top 5 cards of your library, reveal an artifact among them and put it into your hand. The rest go to the bottom of your library in random order. And then we have the Weapons Vendor again, Buster Sword of course, Gilgamesh. Then over here in Innovation, we have Bugenhagen, the Dragon's Lance, which creates a hero. Thing is a +1/+0 knight and has flying on your turn. The Item Shop Keep, that gives an equipped creature menace. Trailblazer Blue, Wrecking Ball Arm again. Behemoth's Edge. Red 13, of course, because he also cares about modified creatures. Cloud Planet's Champion. I don't think he made it into a deck yet. During your turn, as long as he's equipped, he has double strike and indestructible. And then equip costs that target him are 2 less to activate. That's pretty bananas. Then we have Tifa and the Genji Glove for multiple combats. Dancer's Chakrams. I don't think this made it into a deck yet. Job Select, and then equipped creature gets +2/+2 lifelink, and your commanders, if they don't already have +2, so you don't equip this to your commander, because this gives the creature it equips plus your commander, or commanders if you have more than one, also get the +2/+2 lifelink. And then the thing that this is equipped to is a performer. Adalbert didn't make it into the deck, but he has lifelink, and he gets bigger for each equipment you control. They don't have to be attached to him. Then we have Tidus's Brotherhood Sword, which is the Sword of Truth and Justice, which has +2/+2 protection from white and blue, and then whenever it deals combat damage to a player, it gets a +1/+1 counter, and then you can proliferate, which I don't think we're putting a whole lot of counters on things, for the record. Then we have Protection, so we have Darksteel Plate, Champion Self, Swiftfoot Boots, Lightning Greaves, Conqueror's Flail, that says it gets +1/+1 for each color among permanents you control, so that's up to +3 because this is a 3-color deck. And as long as this equipment is attached to a creature, your opponents can't cast spells during your turn, which is neat. Zac Fair, he has a +1/+1 counter, and he also has a Bodyguard effect that makes another thing indestructible by sacrificing him, and then you can put his +1/+1 counter on that creature, in addition to if Zach had anything equipped to him, you can equip one of those things to the creature that you made indestructible. Whew. Edgar over here in Recursion. Once during each of your turns, you may cast an artifact spell from your graveyard. If you do, it enters tapped. And then whenever he attacks, he gets plus X+O, where X is the number of, or X is the greatest mana value among artifacts you control, which I think is the highest potential is 7 between Meteor Golem and Ultimate Weapon. Ultimate Weapon, I'm moving over there to removal because that's the part that matters to me most. Then we have the Goro Goro, Gilgamesh, and Cloud and Tutor. We have Summon Knights of the Round. Creates 3 Knights 4 times, and then gives all of your stuff +2/+2 and indestructible. +2 and +2 until end of turn, and then indestructible counter, so they're indestructible forever. Mechanist Arsenal, +2/+2 for each artifact you control, and is an artificer in addition to its other types. Hero's Blade, it's the objectively worse Buster Sword. Colossus Hammer gets really big. You don't want to pay that equip cost. Summon Bahamut, Ultimate Weapon, Meteor Golem, Nibelheim, Conformer Shuriken. This is one that I don't think made it into. Well, it probably made it into that other one, but just in case, whenever it attacks, it taps a creature, and if it had greater power than the creature that tapped it, the one that this thing is, it gets a +1/+1 counter equal to the difference. Cloud's Limit Break destroys stuff. Cloud's Buster Sword, that's Umezawa's Jite, a broken card. That does a lot of stuff. It's all gross and I don't want to read it. But hopefully I've allowed you a chance to pause and read it yourself. Vandal Blast, Sword of Plowshares. Can I make that non-foil? Good. And Path to Exile. And I think the only section left is the ramp section. So we have Explorer Scope. When it attacks, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land, it goes into play. Freya is a mana dork for equipment. Soul Ring, Arcsig. Sid makes equipments and vehicles easier to cast. It also has flying on your turn because he's a dragoon. And then he can also recur equipment that have gotten destroyed and vehicles, but that vehicles part really doesn't matter. Mind Stone, Nature's Lore, Farseek, Rapid Growth. This guy that gives you free equips. Talisman of Conviction, Thought Vessel, 3 visits. Squall Lionheart, who is really a different character whose name I don't feel like trying to pronounce, but she makes, because it's the cosplay, makes ores and equipments cheaper, but also has First Strike, Vigilance, Lifelink. Summoning Materia, which allows you to cast creature spells on top from your library, also turns it into a slightly bigger creature that is a mana dork. Summoner's Grimoire lets you put free creatures into play. And if it's an enchantment, it's tapped and attacking, which we still have 2 enchantment creatures that I can call off the top of my head because of the summons. Whew, that was a lot of things to say. Oh, but we're on the last 2 that I haven't built myself. Or no, we're on the last 3 that I've built ahead of time. We have Bant Sagas. This one will be very quick, I feel. So this is Tidus again. You remember him? He moves counters around from creatures onto other creatures. Garnet, when she attacks, you can remove a lore counter from each. 1 lore counter each from any number of sagas, and she gets a +1/+1 counter for each one of those. So she keeps your sagas on whatever point in the story you want them to stay on. Goldberry can also move counters, but slower. Power Conduit can remove counters, but slower because it's a tap ability. Although I guess that's not really slower since she doesn't have haste. Oh wait, no. This one's slower because it's in 2 movements. This is at least in 1 movement. The charge counterpart probably won't matter, but we can put +1/+1 counters on stuff. Forgotten Ancient gets +1/+1 counters whenever any player casts a spell, including us. And then during our upkeep, we can move counters from this thing onto other things. Then we have this guy, again, remove a counter from a non-land permanent, draw a card. This thing comes in with 2 shield counters, and then when it enters or attacks, you may remove a counter from a creature. If you do, you draw a card and get a citizen. The citizen is so less important than the drawing of a card. And it's a 5/5, so that's cool. Then we have... Oh, Breeding Pool. I just put it from the next set. Then we have our lands. Oh, Hall of Heliod's Generosity. We can pay a total of 3 because it's land to put an enchantment card from our graveyard on top of our library. So that's why it's in the deck. Because this is an enchantments deck. And I don't think anything else is interesting, but we go through it anyway. Oh, that is a foil. Hold on. I was pondering picking a different print. All very, very pretty lands. Bluster Squall again. Pest Infestation. Heliod's Intervention. Aether Eyes. Settle the Wreckage. Aether Spouts. Oh, I think I did Mass and Targeted in separate groups. Lightning Greaves. Swiftfoot Boots. The reason why I use these Swiftfoot Boots sometimes instead of the ones from Final Fantasy is because these looks like boots that someone in Final Fantasy would wear. That's it. Together Forever. Choose a creature with a counter on it, so this can be done as a sorcery. When that creature dies this turn, return that card to its owner's hand. So, from what I gather, is that at the beginning of your turn, like on your upkeep, or in your upkeep, you tap this, choose one of your sagas that's going away when it gets its next lore counter, and that way they go back to your hand so you can cast them again. That's how I feel that goes. Ghostly Prison, Mithril Coat, Propaganda, Soul Ring, Arksig, Zorsig, Farseek. We do this Farseek instead of the other one because this one's actually from Final Fantasy X. Into the North. Nature's Lore. Scholar of New Horizons. Remove a counter from a permanent control. Search your library for a Plains card, doesn't have to be basic, and reveal it. If an opponent controls more lands than you, it goes onto the battlefield, tapped. If not, it goes into your hand. Then you shuffle your library. Selesnya Signet, Simic Signet, Talisman of Curiosity, Talisman of Progress, Talisman of Unity. 1 over to use the non-foil version. 3 visits. Yuna, Grand Summoner. She was in the deck. She taps for 1 mana, and then that and if your next creature enters with 2 +1/+1 counters or additional, and then she also preserves +1/+1, or she turns counters into +1/+1 counters. Because I think, when your sagas go away, the counters are on them, so they turn into however many +1/+1 counters that go onto a creature. Luminous Broodmoth gives things flying counters, and which this and Tidus is an interesting interaction. I think this made it into the other version, but I had to keep it. So you can move those flying counters to other stuff. So if something keeps dying, you can keep bringing it back with Luminous Broodmoth by moving the flying counters. This is the Yuna that gives your enchantment creatures trample lifelink and ward. I mean, she has it too, but that's slightly less important. And then at the beginning of your end step, you can bring an enchantment from the graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. Finality just means that it ain't coming back again. Then we have all of the summons from Final Fantasy, from the Final Fantasy set. Chocomog, I'll go slow enough so you can read them yourselves. Summon Fenrir, summon Ixion, you might have to pause, summon Primal Garuda, summon Yojimbo, summon Fat Chocobo, summon Good King Mog the 12th, summon Mega Sisters, Shiva, Titan, Valifor, Leviathan, Knights of the Round, and Bahamut. That's all the ones that are not attached to legendary creatures, at any rate. So now Path to Exile, Pongify, Rapid Hybridization, Swords of Plowshares, Unwanted Remake, Bovine Intervention, Disenchant, Parting Gust, Reality Shift, Beast Within, Generous Gift, Memories of Nibelheim, and then we're back to Tidus. Whew. I do like this one slightly better than the version that was just using Final Fantasy X cards, because these 14 summons are neat. It is wildly funny that there's only 14 summons. So like some of these cards don't have a whole lot of, like Garnet does, and this Yuna don't have a whole lot of stuff to interact with, but when they do, it's cool as heck. And this one also, I use stuff outside of the set. So now we have 5-color Terra. And we're going to use this sweet art for it. So, it only costs 1 red-green for a 4/2 human wizard warrior. That when she enters, you mill 5 cards, which you know I don't like doing, but that's just how it is. Put up to 1 enchantment cards from those 5 into your hand, so you could totally whiff. And then you can pay 6 to exile her and return her as this Saga. She's a flying 6/6 Saga wizard, and then the first 3 chapters are create a token that's a copy of target non-legendary enchantment you control. It gains haste. If it's a Saga, you can put lore counters on it, but you sacrifice at the beginning of your next end step anyway, so it's like however many you want to put on it, so how many of those effects you get. And oh, I wonder if I put that card in here, because that's the funny card. If I didn't, you can watch me put it in when I realize it's not in here. But you can add 2 white, 2 blue, 2 black, 2 red, and 2 green, and then she comes back as her front side, which is handy. Then we have Garnet again. Oaka again. Now we have Redia. I'm just going to do this. So she's red-green for a 1/2, human shaman. Whenever a land you control enters, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Not a fan, but hey. But you also have pay X, return a saga card with mana value X from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter. It gains haste until end of turn, activate as a sorcery. Not a super big fan of finality counters and getting rid of stuff forever. But if you have no other recursion, it's better than nothing. And also, you can mana sink, tap her, bring back Knights of the Round, or summon Bahamut to try to close out the game. Of course, we have the Buster Sword. Why wouldn't we? And then we have our lands, Arcane Sanctum, the Floating City, which is actually the City of Brass because it's a 5-color deck. Capital City, I'll be honest, it made it in because it's a Final Fantasy card, not because it's particularly good. Because it's a filter land, but it cycles if you want to discard it and draw a different card. Command Tower, the layers, it's been a while. When they return, you have to sacrifice it. When they enter, you have to return a non-layer land to your hand or sacrifice it. Crossroads Village, enters tapped, but oh, it only adds 1 mana, but it's a Final Fantasy land. That's probably how it snuck in. We'll go through all of them, and then I'll take that out for something else. The Necropolis, this layer, this layer, the Exotic Orchard, which is land, any color that an opponent can produce. This gives away spirits. Biovac, Progressive Horizon, which is pay 1 life, and then add a type of a land you can control could produce. Triome, non-Triome, Triome. Mana Confluence, pay 1 life, mana of any color. Oh, what's this one? Path of Ancestry. When you cast your commander or any other creature that shares a type with it, you scry 1. Raffine's Tower. Reflecting Pool of a type any land you can control could produce. Rith's Grove. Sandstep Citadel. Savage Lands. Triome. Triland. Triome. Spire of Industry can get you any color as long as you control an artifact. Starting Town. 1 life, mana of any color, but it comes into play tapped unless you get it early. World Tree, as long as you control 6 or more lands, all of your lands can add 1 mana of any color. It can also grab gods, but that matters very little. Oh, you have to, yeah, if you have 6 or more. I don't remember if I said that. Another Ruins, another try, another try, another try. Then, of course, we have Tidus Unis Guardian. We're just going to do that really quick. And then I'm going to go back here. Because Crossroads Village doesn't do what I thought it did. Oh, now we're down to 37 lands. We can put another card in here, but we'll do that when we're at the end. Lightning Greaves, of course. Swiftfoot Boots, of course. Together Forever, of course. Champion's Helm, Darksteel Plate, Soul Ring, Arc-Sig, Mind Stone, Nature's Lore, Farseek, Conviction, Dominance, Hierarchy, Indulgence, Progress, Thought Vessel, 3 Visits, Commander Sphere, Summoning Materia, Summoner's Grimoire, Yuna, I just scooted a jug of water and got really scared for a second. Once each of your turns, you can cast a creature spell from cards that went to your graveyard this turn, other than the battlefield. And then, so it can't get back our summons, but if we use this ability, we can pay 1 and discard a summon and then cast it in our second main phase. The Hope of Spira again. Oh, I forgot to check him. Ding. Ding. Very cute art for the record. Rejoin the fight. Mill 3 cards. We're not a fan. But starting with the next part in turn order, each opponent gives you a thing from your graveyard, and they each have to pick a different thing. And well, you have to have like 3 creatures in there, but still. Path, Swords, Vandal Blast, Suplex. This is bad because it's a sorcery, but because it's 7 suplexing the train in Final Fantasy VI, it gets a pass. And it exiles, so that pays for it being, that like makes up for being a sorcery, sort of. Void Ran gets rid of any non-land permanent. Meteor Golem. Ruinous Ultimatum gets all non-land permanents from all opponents. Ultima Weapon again. Crystal Fragments. Notice that once again I did only Final Fantasy cards for this deck. And I think it's one of the few cards that the other White Mage / Summoner from Final Fantasy IX. The front side is equipped creature gets +1/+1. And then you can pay 7 to flip this over for this not very good Saga. Prevent all damage that will be dealt to creatures you control this turn. I guess that's fine. And then, oh, well, you know, that's not bad, but it sure isn't 7 mana. Then we have Terra's Dad. Surveil 2, gain 2, and then if you cast it for its flashback cost, we get reveal the top card of your library. If it's a permanent card, you get to put it in your hand. And then I actually won with this card on the day of recording on Arena because I had a creature from an older set that allowed me to put a lore counter on all of my sagas, and this extra 2 green mana allowed me to cast another spell, and it was in a Terra deck, but it wasn't all Final Fantasy cards in that one. But yeah, it allowed me to cast a spell. I don't remember what the spell was, but it put enough stuff on board that I think my opponent scooped. I don't think I did an attack. Brunhilde. Exile the top card of your library. During any turn you put a lore counter on this saga, you may play that card. So this turn, next turn, and probably not the turn after, because this thing will be gone, so you won't have that effect. And then the next 2 turns are your the first creature you cast after the lore counter goes on gets haste. Chocomog, Fenrir, Guardian Force Efreet, Ixion. This has all of the summons. I don't know what I was talking. The other one had all of the summons from Bant, except for the 1 mana one, I think. Oh, it also did. No, it had all the ones that weren't other things, because I don't think it had summon the Esper, and I don't think, yeah, and it didn't have the equipment. Valagarmanda, Guardian Force Cerberus, Primal Garuda, Yojimbo, Fat Jacobo, Good King Mog the 12th, Mega Six. There's Shiva, Titan, Valifor, Anima, Kujata, Leviathan, Primal Odin, which can cause a player to lose the game, Knights of the Round, and Bahamut. Then we have... oh, we're all the way back to the beginning, aren't we? Yep. So we have room for one more card because I took out a land. We're going to hit land base just because I'm curious to see if there's any only 5 color lands that it thinks I missed. We could Reliquary Tower, but I don't think we're drawing enough cards. Saga isn't a creature type, so Cavern of Souls doesn't do anything. Cascading Cataracts just gives us Wooburg. Yep. So now we just hit up EDH Rec because that is... So what we do is FF T land, because let's just replace it with a land. Let's see if there's anything in the Final Fantasy lands. Gains 2 life, but doesn't really do anything. You know what's funny? I realized I said a mistruth. Most of the cards in this deck are, except for the land base, is Final Fantasy, because I pulled out triomes and stuff to fill it out. I don't really need the capital city either, because I think I can do better than that. Just going through everything to be thorough. Oh, any color. How many multicolored spells are we running? I mean, technically our commander and like more than 0. We're not putting any of these ones that tap and then also tap down something else. The base camp is actually kind of funny. Wizard Warrior, Cleric, Shaman, so it doesn't count, Citizen, Warrior, I don't think anything in here, but we got Cleric again, Cleric, Cleric, Knight, that's a wizard. It's a non-zero number, which is weird. So the base camp could add color for a non-zero number of our things. Saga, it still isn't a creature type. This only casts the Void. Gallifrey's for Time Lords and Aliens. Gallifrey would have been funny for Jenova if Jenova had an activated ability. Although I guess technically, well, it's only a 2-color deck, so it really didn't matter. But it is mildly funny. But like all the changelings too. Okay. Oh, you know what? Glimmer Void, even though we need to have an artifact in play. How many artifacts do we have? Categories. Type. We have 19 artifacts. And 30 creatures, as it turns out. I mean, many of them are impermanent creatures. So we'll put in the Glimmer Void. We can always take it out if we find something better. We're going to go with this super old printing. There we go. So just one more. Dragons. Dragons and Omens. Tap an untapped creature. Pilots and vehicles. Charge counters. Pillar of the Prey runes is specifically for multicolor spells. This only casts legendary spells, which we do have a non-zero number, but I feel it's the same as with Pillar of the Prey runes. This is for artifacts. I wish there was a power depot for enchantments, because that would actually be really nice. Elementals. Slivers. Legendary creatures in our graveyard. Phyrexians. Okay. We're going to do any type, even though that's a much shorter list, and I doubt we'll find anything that didn't already go in the deck. Oh, there we go. Cactus for Reserve. I forgot if this thing exists. And then we're going to continue to go through this just in case we can replace the power conduit, which it doesn't look like. Nope. Okay, so that put us back at 100. Sweet. Final Fantasy, except for the land base, because it's 5 colors. And we kneecapped ourselves with the net land base for this next deck. Which is just towns. So this is once... Nope, this one actually... So this one, you can probably guess all the cards that are in this deck. By knowing me and knowing this commander. So we have the Wandering Minstrel, and did I key mark this one? No. Like, this one feels like an Exhibition 1, just because of how dumb the point is. So for a green and a blue, we have a 1/3 human bard. Lands you control enter untapped. That's important. I cannot stress how important that is. Then at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 5 or more towns, you get a 2/2 elemental. That's all 5 colors. And then you can pay 3 in Wooburg. Oh, there's a card not in that Terra deck. Because of the limitation I put on myself. It's called the Door to Nothingness, which basically Terra's backside pays for, that causes one of your opponents to lose the game. That's in my version of that deck that is online, because it's a 1v1 format. I haven't had the dream yet, but it's there in case it does happen. Heck, I haven't even, I don't even think I've transformed Terra, if I'm being honest. Anyway, you can pay all of that to get other creatures you control, get +X until end of turn, where X is the number of towns you control. That's why it's the towns deck. Then we have Town Greeter, where you mill 4 cards and you get a land from among those cards back into your hand, and you gain 2 life if you return to town. Augur of Autumn, look at the top card, lands from the top card, or lands from the top, or creature from the top if you have 3 creatures with different powers. Buster Sword, because it draws and casts spells for free. Oh, hey, look, lands from the top again. This thing just says towns on it, that's why it made it in. We can draw and then discard and then sacrifice this thing to draw 3, but it costs less for the number of towns you control. Rada plays lands from the top as well. Risen Reef can get you a land off the top or a card in your hand for when elementals start coming into play. Draws a card and then you can put a land into play. Good old Choo-Choo Rocket, where you can draw a card and put a land into play when you cast a creature spell. And then you can also put creatures back in your hand if you need to cast more creatures. Bonnie Paul makes that blue cow back there, but also when you attack, you draw a card and you can put a land into play. Draw 4 cards, affinity for towns, so cost as little as 2 blue. And now we have our towns. Adventurer's Inn, Balheim Garden, Seed Academy, which when it attacks you can draw a card if you pay the 5 mana or the 7 mana -1 for each town other town you control to transform it. Which the funny thing is that if you transform it, it's no longer a town. So keep that in mind. Town, 5 color land, town, makes Wooburg, town, multicolor land, town, lands an opponent's controls, gives them the spirit, town, pay a life, lands you can produce, town. Towns are honestly kind of bad. 5 colors, town, any of your colors, again, but also it's every non-basic land type, which means it's a town. Oh, it's a filter land. Anyway, Plaza of Heroes. This casts legendary spells. Oh, I forgot about this. Legendary creatures you control. That probably would make it worth it for the other deck. We're not going to switch it now, but that's a thing. Town. Mana fixing. Become a copy of another land, probably a town. Town. Comes into play as a copy of a land that is probably a town. Town. Lightning Greaves, Swiftfoot Boots, Champion's Helm, Darksteel Plate, Mithril Coat, Knights of the Round Table, Expedition Map because it finds a town, lands off the top, Soul Ring, World Map because it can search for a town, Arc Sig, Mind Stone, lands off the top, play extra land, Conviction, Dominance, Hierarchy, Indulgence, Progress, Thought Vessel, extra lands, and mana fixing. Gets extra lands into play from the top 6 of your library. Makes your lands have every land type. And your creatures have every creature type, for if that matters. Can search your library for a town. Lands off the top. Extra lands into play. Mill cards and then land from the graveyard. Lands from the top. Grab 2 towns from your deck. Mill 3 cards, then return a land from your graveyard to the battlefield. And also make zombies. Lands off the top. Makes Wooburg. Mana fixes, because it gives you a land that's every basic land type. This can do a bunch of stuff, but the relevant one is land from your graveyard. Makes Wooburg. Tutors out a land. Lands from graveyard. Lands from graveyard. Lands from graveyard. Lands from graveyard. Path to Exile. Swords of Plowshares. Vandal Blast. Memories of Nibelheim. Void Rend. Meteor Golem, Ruinous Ultimatum, Summon Bahamut, Horizon Explorer, this is from the next set. Lands you control enter untapped, and then whenever you attack a player you get a lander. The lander don't matter because we don't have basics. Lands you enter untapped. And also you get an extra land into play once. Other permanents you control enter the battlefield untapped. And then we're back to him. The thing is that like this is like a gates deck where you want to get a bunch of gates. But the gates deck has a win condition with mazes in where you win the game. This is just to get a bunch of gates out, and then hopefully your +X matters, because we didn't have anything to give trample. But it exists, and it is my take on it. We are at 2 hours, and now we're going to build a deck from scratch. Because for some reason, I didn't want to build this one ahead of time, not even the lands. We can probably grab the lands from Tidus, from Secret Sid. I keep saying Tidus, even though I want to say Tidus, because that feels more correct. Yes, we're going to grab the lands from Tidus. Oh wait, we got to do export because that gets us versions. You can't see what I'm doing, but categories. We want the lands, the protection, the ramp, and the removal. Copy. Import. Save. And I do not see any... Oh, no. I see a bunch of things that I want to remove from the ramp section. We don't need any of these artificers. Which puts us at 11 pieces of ramp, oddly enough. Solemn, Thought, Progress, Diamonds, Mind, Diamond, Cold Steel Heart, Zord Signet, oh, Automated Artificer, Soul Ring, Arc Sig. Let's see. The Iron Crag. Felwar Stone. There we go. Let's just change their printings, because that's how we're rolling today. I did find a neat printing of the Felwar Stone down here. They're breaking off pieces of that Kit Kat bar. We don't need that mechanical engineer. I don't know how that slipped in, but okay. So everything else, you kind of know what it does because I put it in decks before. So let's look at our commanders. We have Alisaie, Leveilleur, Alisaie Leveilleur, partners with Alphinaud Leveilleur. This one has first strike, and the second spell you cast costs 2 less to cast. Neat. When you cast your second spell each turn, draw a card. Vigilance. This is a 2/4. This is a 3/2. So, let's look for things that care about our second spell. Which is funny, because a lot of that has red in it, and this doesn't have red. At least a lot of the ones I really like. So, second spell. Because we get a discount on our second spell. We get to draw a card with our second spell. Let's see what else cares about our second spell. From what I can tell, this is because Scryfall is being a big Dorcas. Ow. Kicked the side of my computer with my foot. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, put a rally counter on this enchantment, then create a 1/1 white monk creature token with prowess for each rally counter on it. Interesting, but might not make it into the deck. Clarion Spirit is at least a 2/2 with flying. I don't think it's going to have a better printing. But we're going to use the version that's not on the list. But that can go in here for now. Because at least it's a creature in its own right. Code Spell Cleric. If it enters, if it was the second spell, you get a +1/+1 counter. Not important. They're Eldar. They're Space Elves. Neat. Not really because, they're not 40k, but... whenever you cast your second spell each turn... Oh, that's good. Oh, and this is from the next set, which apparently is now legal enough, even though it's still like 3 days. I guess because the pre-release happened? That is almost a wildly different looking person, but I think it's because of, like, all the light. But anyway, Cosmo Grand Zenith. You can either get a soldier or a +1/+1 creature on all of your stuff, or a +1/+1 token on all your creatures. Perfection lies beyond ego. Only through service can you become. Ugh. That is a different spelling away from being no good. 2 life on our second spell. He's a common, so I'm not expecting much. That can always come out later, but at least he's a 3/2. Dreamtide Whale gets to stick around on second spells. So we're fine with it. Like, this is stuff that can always be... and then Goldbug. Goldbug helps humans, which we did add to, but our commanders are not human, so that doesn't matter. Oh, this makes our second spell cheaper, but I feel like... Man, that does feel like a reprint. But, hey. High Spire Bellringer, but... Oh, it's not a reprint, I just misinterpreted its expansion symbol. It's from Dragonstorm. Mongari the Diplomat cares about opponent's second spells, but that's a good enough reason for me. Oh, we're going to use the Final Fantasy version, of course. Ledger Treasure, I don't like to connive. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, investigate. And then you can crack clues on your opponent's turn. That's actually kind of neat. Incursion Specialist, unblockable. Also forgot I can just do this. This thing gets +1/+1, but it doesn't get unblockable. So it's effectively worse than this. Monk class, second spell costs 1 less to cast. Okay. Return up to 1 target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Okay. That's just paying an extra 2. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. For as long as it remains exiled, it has you may cast this card from exile. As long as you've cast another spell this turn. Sure. This thing gets a +1/+1 counter. Oh, monologue text. Attacks our opponents on their second spells. Because we're filthy hypocrites when it comes to second spell casting. Oji the Exquisite Blade. It enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life and scry 2. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, exile the up to 1 target creature you control. Oh, you can bounce a creature. I mean, not bounce, blink. I don't know how important blinking is, but we're kind of assuming it's cool. And we can always, and if it turns out that it's not cool, we can take him out. Second spell. Oh, this at least has scry on top of that. It gets the counter, but it also scries, so that's worth it. And it's a common, so I'm not expecting much out of it. Shackle Slinger can tap stuff and stun stuff that's already tapped. Just double checking, didn't think so. So that's cool. Second guess. Oh, amass orcs on our second spell. Sure, why not, Saruman? It's funny, he's a little expensive himself. Razzle Dazzler can't be blocked on the second spell. Rames Ekor, Ancient Shield. Oh, you draw a card and then get a wall. The beginning of combat on your turn, creatures you control with Defender gain Exalted. Oh, wow, this is a really cool card. See, this is why we didn't just put this one in, because we're like, I'm pretty... Like, it's also that prowess might not matter. I mean, we can come back. We'll probably come back for it. We'll see. Station Monitor. Whenever you cast your second spell, you get a drone. But those drones can only block creatures with flying. Storm of Saruman. Oh, this copies your second spell, but this comes out at 6. Oh, this draws a card on second spell. This guy... Oh. We get knights, and then there's also this other part. Where if a player draws a second card, you draw a card. Which, it says player, so if any of our second spell draw a card things happen, we get another card on top of that. This guy copies our second spell and then puts the original into suspend. That's neat. Also, that this particular treatment is really cool looking. Second spell, +1/+1 counter. Second spell, copy it. Copy twice if you've completed. Oh, and we get to introduce the initiative, which everybody loves. Nobody dislikes the initiative. Trouble in Pairs. Uthros Psionicist. Second spells are cheaper. This taps a creature, but I don't care. The reason why I cared about the other one is that it taps down or stuns things that are already tapped. Oh, this creates birds. So that's neat. And then since this guy draws us a card, what are we sitting at? Oh, we're at 99. Blink. Okay, so blinking him. Or, actually, that's probably a her. Oh, that's also a monk. I never bothered to pay attention. It doesn't... Metallurgian. Oh. Well, there's another thing that can come out. What's funny is that we do have a couple of things that get +1/+1 counters, but I think we can do without the whale. Especially since it doesn't fly. And then there's, besides this, there's no reason to blink any of our stuff. So this is not a too high power deck, especially since we're not casting on a whole lot of, like, we're not doing anything at instant speed in this deck. Like, with our 4 spots, we could probably put in 3 of the cards that let us cast at instant speed. Because we are drawing cards, but I want to see second card for things that care if we've drawn our second card. Draw your second card, you get a Drake. I doubt we're drawing 5th card. Draw a second. As long as you have Sittings Blessing, detectives can't be blocked, and whenever you draw your second card, you get a detective. That's interesting. +1/+1 counter. We get Spirits. Loses Defender. Make a copy. +1/+1 counter. If an opponent draws, we draw a card. +1/+1 counter. +1/+1 counter. Oh, draw your second card each turn. You get an illusion that gets +1/+0 for each of your illusions. And then when an illusion dies, if it had, you get the free permanent equal to its power. So I like that. Like, I don't care that we're not casting like a bunch of stuff at flash speed. I'm being very honest with that. Get a fairy with flying. So now we're going to search this for, I don't know if it's had or has. Had flash. And I think there's only three of these anyway. Oh. Spells as though they... We need the very specific wording. You may cast spirit spells. During each opponent's end step, you may cast spells as they had flash. Sorcery spells as though they had flash. Legendary. The backside lets you cast spells as though they had flash. And then also makes your spells cheaper for the number of cards your opponents have drawn. High-Faced Trickster, spells as though they had flash, and it's a flying 4/2. Wait, let's change the printing. Leyline of Anticipation. So the front side is when it enters, return an enchantment card from that isn't a god from your graveyard to your hand. We're not like running like a high bit of enchantment. I'm not even running where's my protection section? Yeah, we're not even running propaganda and that other thing. Ghostly Prison. So even though they're not great cards, we're going to go Leyline of Anticipation for that version because we can get it for free in the Magical Christmas Land that it's in our opening hand. And then Vedalken Ori, which even Josh Lee Kwai I think stopped playing, but look at that sweet art. And also it gets us to 100. So there. We have 3 ways to cast spells as though they had flash. So we can... and we're drawing cards. So theoretically, we are drawing a lot of cards, casting spells for cheap if they're the second one. We probably don't need Shadow Spear, but I really don't feel like messing around with this deck anymore. Also, this permanence your opponent's control lose hexproof and indestructible is still nice for our entire removal section. Oh, which gained a card. because I could have swore. Oh, it's the slinger that taps stuff down. Okay. So that is everything I wanted to talk about for Final Fantasy. Next week, I don't know what I'm going to do yet. You'll find out when I post it. Because I might start doing recordings without saying what week it is. And just releasing them whenever I feel like it. Well, I'll release them on Sundays, but releasing them in the order that I feel like it. In fact, for people who actually watch these when they come out, make some kind of request, and if I have ideas for it, I'll do that. I'll at least reply to you and let you know how tenable your request is. See you whenever, next week, for whatever.